Hello and welcome to our Office Hours webinar for BrainHQ. We're so glad that you could be here joining us today. For those of you who are newcomers, our goal for the Office Hours webinar series is to show off a specific feature or two within BrainHQ, and then we'll open the floor and answer any questions you might have about those features. Today's topic is a bit of a deep dive into the personal trainer within BrainHQ. So let's take a look at the agenda for today. So today, Jeff and I will walk you through the different features within the personal trainer, and then we will pivot to taking questions from the audience. If at any point you'd like to ask a question about the personal trainer, you can click on the Q&A button on the Zoom control panel and a new window will appear. You can type in your questions there, and then we will do our best to answer as many of those as we can. However, there are a lot more of you in the audience than there are me and Jeff, so that means that we aren't likely going to be able to answer every question. Good news, though, is that if you have any follow-up questions, you can send those to our support team at support@brainhq.com. We also have a support site that you can find with answers to a lot of common questions, including a whole section dedicated to the personal trainer. The website for that is support.brainhq.com. The other thing that I wanted to note is that today's webinar is being recorded and it will get posted to our YouTube channel. If you'd like to be notified when that video goes live, be sure to go to youtube.com/brainhq and subscribe there in order to receive a notification. All right, so a little bit about me. Hi, I'm Stephanie. Before working at Posit Science, I was a science communicator and docent at a science museum here in San Francisco. I started working for Posit Science in 2014 as a customer delight specialist. So if you've written into our support team and gotten an answer from an agent, it may have been me if you've contacted us sometime in the last 10 years. At the end of last year, I did transition to a full-time multimedia role, and now I am the multimedia communications specialist, where I can dedicate more time to focusing on these kinds of webinars. Now, my co-host today is a newcomer to the webinar series, and I hope you all will be very inviting towards him. This is going to be Jeff Dewey. Jeff, you want to say hi?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining today. Look forward
Yeah,
to the webinar.
really, really glad to have you here, Jeff. Jeff is the product manager for BrainHQ and has been with Posit Science since BrainHQ's launch way back in 2012, so he predates even me. He and I will be tag teaming a lot of the questions about the personal trainer you may have, as well as going through and leading through a presentation. All right, so let me go ahead and switch over to my demo window here and we can get started. All right, so you all should be seeing the BrainHQ landing page. So when you go to brainhq.com and log into your account, you should be seeing a page that is similar to this. So let's start off by talking about what the personal trainer is. Sometimes in the customer support department, we would get questions from people saying, hey, can I talk to the personal trainer? I want to talk about how my schedule is being put together. And our answer to that, unfortunately, is no, because the personal trainer isn't actually a person. The personal trainer is a feature within BrainHQ that is designed to pick out exercises for you. And it does that each time you sit down to do your training. It is designed ideally to take the guesswork out of your training. You don't need to handpick your exercises on levels unless you want to, but the personal trainer is there to do that for you. Now, whenever you log into BrainHQ, the personal trainer is going to look at your entire brain training history. That includes your personal performance on every level of every exercise that you have completed. Then based on that data, BrainHQ is going to select a certain number of exercises and levels from those exercises that it believes are the optimal ones for you to train with in order to experience the largest performance improvements. Then each time you train, the personal trainer is either going to pick new levels for you to train on, if you're ready to advance, or it may ask you to repeat levels that it thinks that you can improve on. As you continue training, it will retire certain exercises and then add new ones to your schedule in order to continually meet your brain's needs. All right, so let's talk about how to find the personal trainer. That's one of our top questions in customer support is how do I access the personal trainer? And it's real simple. It's one of the primary ways that people do their training with BrainHQ, so we wanted to make it nice and big and obvious. when in doubt, look for a big button. So right here, under Use Personal Trainer, go ahead and click on that arrow. And then we have the personal trainer schedule that has loaded in for us. So when you first start out using the personal trainer, it is going to primarily queue up attention and brain speed exercises. And this is a relatively fresh account that I use just for personal trainer demos. And so you'll see that all of these exercises are green and blue. Green exercises being attention exercises and blue exercises being brain speed exercises. Jeff, can you talk a little bit about why we have sort of decided to queue up brain speed and attention exercises primarily for new users at first with the personal trainer?
Yeah, I think these initial exercises, especially some individual ones, kind of are maybe the stepping stones to later exercises. So, for instance, you see, I guess we see visual sweeps there, which is an exercise that sort of breaks down some of the basic functions of visual processing. And so mastering that exercise before you tackle one of the later higher level visual exercises is a good approach. Although you don't have to complete all the visual sweeps before you'll see other exercises, but it's a good starting point. And similarly, we do the same for the auditory exercises. Sound sweeps is also on the schedule there. It breaks down parts of speech to very basic component. And when you get good at processing that, it's helpful for the later exercises where there's, maybe phonemes or words that you're trying to discriminate.
Yeah, absolutely. So, sort of to summarize or put it another way, these exercises are really good at sort of laying a foundation for your training within BrainHQ and working towards cognitive function improvements. And also, they are generally kind of easier exercises for maybe people who haven't experienced this kind of training or interactive media before. So generally, these exercises are going to be pretty user friendly. All right, so let's talk about how to actually read the schedule here. So on the right side, we have this giant start button. Remember, I said when in doubt, look for the big button. In that button, it says start, and then it shows us an icon for double decision, and it says double decision fourth level. Then if we look to the left of that, we have Hawkeye, which is the repeated level, eye for detail, visual sweeps, sound sweeps, target tracker. So what's going to happen is the personal trainer has picked out this lineup of exercises for me and these levels for me specifically. And what's going to happen is as I complete level by level, if I go and click on the start button, think of this line or this schedule as sort of like a tape that feeds into that start button. So if I wanted to go in the order that the personal trainer is proposing for me, then I would start with double decision. Once I'm done with double decision, it would load up Hawkeye, and then it would load up eye for detail, visual sweeps, so on and so forth. Now, the other thing that I wanted to note here is that under double decision and eye for detail and some of these other exercises, we see fourth level, fifth level, sixth level, so on and so forth. But then under some other levels, we see repeated level. So I want to talk a little bit about the difference between those. So if you see a level that is enumerated there, that means that is a new level to you. That is a level that you haven't trained with before, which means that you did really well the last time that a previous level of that exercise had been queued up for you, and it wants to go ahead and push you, and you've graduated to another level. Now, for Hawkeye, I needed a little bit more work on that last level that the personal trainer had queued up for me, so it instead wants me to repeat that level. Now, the way that the personal trainer determines whether or not you should graduate to a new level or if you should repeat a level is based on how many stars you had earned in the previous iteration. So if you are training with the personal trainer, it wants you to earn cumulatively 10 stars on a level. When you first train with a level, you're going to earn a certain number of stars, set your baseline score, and then you're going to get asked to replay that level until you earn at least 10 stars, or if you replay it 5 times, whichever comes first. Each time you replay a level, that's also going to count towards your weekly goal. So it's okay if you if you overshoot it, and instead of getting it in 2 or 3, you go for 4 or 5. Now, when you have either reached 10 stars or 5 replays, you're going to get a completion screen. And so actually, I have a screen that I want to share with you. This is from when I completed a session earlier on this account. Rather than going through the whole session again here for you guys, I just wanted to get this screen here. But you can see when you complete one of these levels, uh, there is a circle around the outside that starts to fill in. And that circle is a sort of visual representation of how much work you have put towards your weekly goal so far. So we can see this level, it looks like it was probably sound sweeps I had completed. I had trained with it 3 times, and I got 3 of my 8 levels that the personal trainer wants me to do this session, and I earned a total of 13 stars across those 3 levels. Then I went ahead and continued my training, completed the next exercise that the personal trainer had queued up for me. It looks like that was visual sweeps. That one I did it twice, so now I'm up to 5 out of 8 levels completed, and the circle has continued to fill in a little bit more. Continued training on in that session, and we got more than 10 stars here. I had uh, been given a repeated level of one of our attention exercises. And I had, I guess, struggled with it a little bit in the past, and that's why it was asking me to repeat it. But I came through, improved my score. I met my goal here, and I got more than 10 stars. Now, once I was done with that session, I got a session complete screen. And the session complete screen is going to tell you how many levels you've passed, how many moments that you've had. Moments are like little accolades, things that'll say, you're in the top 10% of users who completed that level, for example. You also get a summary that tells you how many stars you've earned and how many levels towards your weekly goal you have completed during that session. Now, once you are done with all of your sessions, so this is the goal screen that, or the summary screen that I got after my second session of the week. And then we can see I'm at 18 out of 24 levels here. Let's say I went back for my third session and I get a session complete screen that gives me the big overview here. So the personal trainer is designed in such a way that it wants you to train by default for 20, it wants you to get 24 levels a week, and it's going to assume that you're going to be training roughly 3 times a week. All right, so let me go back to the screen here. All right, so one of the other questions that we get a lot in the customer support department is, how does the personal trainer go about picking levels to train with, and when does it know when to bring those levels back? We had already touched on this a little bit before, but a level is going to get returned to your schedule if you didn't reach your performance target. So by default, the personal trainer wants you to earn at least 3 stars on a level to show that you're ready for the next level. If you exceed that performance target, then the personal trainer will want you to advance to a new or more challenging level. If you've scored high enough consistently on a lower level, you're maybe not getting as much bang for your buck in that training. It wants to push you a little bit further, and so it's going to advance you to a new level. Now, another thing is that an exercise can also be retired once you have retired a certain number of levels within that exercise. So the personal trainer will remove that exercise from the active set of exercises that it schedules for you, and then it will swap that out for a new exercise. Again, by default, this is going to happen after you retire 10 levels in an exercise. So that was a lot. Let's take a step back, look at the big picture here just to summarize. Each personal trainer session, you're going to have 6 exercises that the personal trainer is going to serve up to you. The personal trainer will pick a level from each of these exercises. It might be a repeated level if you didn't get to your star target on that level last time, or it may be a new level if you did beat your star target on the previous level. After you retire 10 levels within an exercise, the personal trainer will then retire that exercise and then add a new one to your schedule for you. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about some of the trainer settings. I know I've been talking a lot about, the personal trainer defaults to 24 levels per week or defaults to a performance target of 3 stars. But let's see actually how we can sort of tweak that. And I'm going to toss it over to Jeff to sort of talk about performance goals and training strategies here.
Yeah, so before I get into the details of how you can make adjustments to the personal trainer, it's probably good to understand that though the personal trainer does a lot of very specific things that Stephanie described, it does those in order to kind of fulfill a few general principles. And in other words, we picked a specific way for the personal trainer to work, but there's probably more than one way for it to work, which is why there's flexibility. So we're going to be talking about how you can make changes to your settings here. Earlier in Stephanie's presentation, she showed if the personal trainer is scheduling an exercise you don't want, you could actually click on the next one and do that one instead. So you don't always have to follow it directly, and you can manipulate things a little bit. But just to sort of step back a tiny bit, the general principles are, hey, when you do training in BrainHQ, it's a good idea to stick with that for a little while. That's why there's that star criteria in the trainer. You have to get 10 stars in order to move on to the next exercise in your schedule. So we want you to do the same thing a few times. The other reason why we do that is that's really the primary way we measure your improvement over time. We look at your score the first time you encountered a level of an exercise, and we compare that with your scores later, so we could see how you've improved over time. So it's important to do the same one at least more than once, so you could have that improvement, and maybe more times. So anyway, one of the things that the personal trainer is really concerned about is, hey, how well did you do on the level? And we have a default setting for the expectation for how well you need to do on a level before it stops repeating. And that's what we're seeing here with this, the easy, medium, hard, expert, the training challenge. So medium is the default. That means you need to get 3 stars in the level. And stars are, we use stars kind of in 2 ways. Unfortunately, and it may be confusing to you guys, but there's one way to look at stars where they represent performance. So when I complete a level and I find out how many stars I got in that level, that really is a performance measure. 5 stars is the best. 1 star is the worst you could do. 3 stars is right in the middle. But we also, like I mentioned before, in order to have you, no matter how well you perform, we still want you to repeat a little bit in a current trainer schedule. That's why we make you get 10 stars total. So let's say you're a medium performer, you're getting 3 stars every time. That's going to take you 3 or 4 repeats in order to accomplish that goal. If you're a high performer and you get 5 stars both times, you finish in 2 repeats. And the reason for that, again, is, hey, you're performing really great on this exercise. Let's get to something you need a little more work on and not spend more time here. So anyway, if you want to challenge yourself more, and continue hitting the same exercise until you reach a higher performance measure, you can do that by adjusting it to hard. That would be 4 stars. Expert would be 5 stars. If you don't do that, the personal trainer is going to do that anyway. When you achieve 3 stars, as Stephanie said earlier, that level doesn't get repeated again, at least not right away. Once you work through all of the material in BrainHQ and you've got 3 stars in everything, that level is going to come back again, because now, since we know you've 3-starred everything, we've automatically adjusted the goal to 4 stars. So the level that you mastered at 3 stars is going to come back in your schedule until you master it in 4 stars. But if you want to get there faster, you could do it that way. One of the side effects of that, though, is that you'll see the same thing more often, right? So some people, that's a problem for. They'd like to move through the material more quickly. So, keeping that at the default setting, helps you do that. And on that same subject, I think even a question came in about that, the one below, the training depth, that also sort of influences how rapidly you'll move through the exercises. So I think Stephanie touched on this as well. You have to, when an exercise gets scheduled, and again, we mentioned that the personal trainer does sort of have a priority in terms of how it schedules the levels. Mainly that's due to, as Stephanie expressed, starting with the fundamentals first and then moving up later. Also has a little bit of legacy involved there. The exercises that we've had around the longest are the ones we start with first. We have the most studies showing that those exercises are very effective. So we want to make sure that our users get the biggest bang for the buck. There have been many studies of BrainHQ. Very rarely does a study all 29. So we know a little bit more about some exercises than others because of just the way the studies are structured. Anyway, so getting back to training depth, the way it works in the default trainer is you need to, in a given exercise, say it's visual sweeps, you have to do 10 different levels to the 3-star goal before it will take visual sweeps temporarily out of your schedule and put a new exercise there. So if you're somebody who, that feels like too much visual sweeps, it's fine to make an adjustment here. If you increase the breadth, it will require fewer levels before you move on to the next exercise. I think Stephanie also mentioned at any given time, we have 6 exercises scheduled. So as you meet this goal, it'll drop one out and a new one will come in. Let's see. Maybe that's everything we wanted to cover in this little section. Is that right, Stephanie?
Yeah, a couple of little notes that I will add is that a lot of the times we get questions from people who are like, hey, why are these same exercises getting scheduled and I really want to move through these exercises a lot more quickly? That's the breadth and depth meter here that Jeff was just referring to. So just to reiterate, if you want to move through your exercises more quickly in the personal trainer, you can set this to a value that's more towards the breadth side. Or conversely, if you really want to dig down deep and really train with a level in depth, you can move it over towards the depth side, and that is going to require the completion of more levels to pass an exercise. Now, one other thing is that if you make any changes to any of these settings, make sure you click the little save button at the bottom. Otherwise, if you navigate away from this page, those settings aren't going to be saved. One other thing that we have noted here, well, actually 2 things. One, we have the weekly goal here. So as I had said earlier, by default, the personal trainer wants you to train for roughly an hour a week, and that is going to roughly be equivalent to 24 levels of training. If that seems like a lot for you, that is a-okay. You can go ahead and click on change goal and then use the little minus button to bring down the intensity of the training. So instead, it's going to bring you down to, say, 12 levels and training for 30 minutes a week. So 10-minute sessions 3 times a week. If you want to increase your training, if you want to increase your weekly goal, you can increase it all the way up to 3 hours a week at 72 weekly levels, which is very, very high intensity. We don't necessarily recommend that for many users, but it's there if you want to be an overachiever and go for it. Once you're done making any changes to the weekly goals here, go ahead and click on the little arrow to save those changes.
And one more note about those settings. What they actually adjust is when you see the completion screens that Stephanie showed you earlier. So when is a personal trainer session completed? If you leave it at the default, a personal trainer session is completed after, since it's 3 times a week at 24 levels, it's after 8 levels. But if you have your settings here and you feel like doing another session that day, you can go right ahead and do it. These settings do not, prevent you from training more or punish you for training less. You actually have a lot of flexibility. And that really is what I was meaning when I said this whole setup it is a specific implementation, but we just have these general principles that we know are helpful if you train these ways. But there's lots of flexibility for you if you're time constrained in a given day or you're ambitious and want to do more. There's no problem with either choices.
Absolutely. Real quick, I do see a question in the chat of how I got to this page. I did sort of gloss over that pretty quickly, so let me reiterate that. Up next to your name when you're logged into BrainHQ, you can bring up this pull-down menu and then go to either just profile will take you to the top of this page, or if you click on goals, it will automatically scroll you down to a section here where you can adjust those weekly goals. The last feature under the personal trainer settings here that we want to touch on is the focus. So let's go ahead and click on that. So we have different focuses here that are programmable into the personal trainer. So we have standard focuses, we have specialized focuses, and then at the bottom here, we have custom focuses. So standard focuses are the personal trainer's default settings. So that is going to include all 29 exercises in BrainHQ. It will take you through those all over time. And then the personal trainer with Daily Spark uh, is the same as your personal trainer schedule, but you get a Daily Spark exercise at the beginning of that training session. Jeff, can you explain a little bit about what the Daily Spark exercise is and why maybe a returning user would want to train with the Daily Spark?
Yeah, the Daily Spark. Well, first of all, the Daily Spark is a feature that's available to both paid and freemium users. So if you are interacting with BrainHQ and you've not chosen to subscribe yet, you can do a Daily Spark exercise every day. Once you move on to being a subscribed BrainHQ user, you have a lot more options. But some people liked the experience of having a different exercise starting their schedule every day. So we made it so you can continue to have the Daily Spark experience in addition to all the other exercises that get scheduled into your trainer session.
Yeah, that's usually what I like doing when I like training with a personal trainer is the optimize schedule with Daily Spark because sometimes it feels like it's kind of giving you a nice little curveball to sort of jumpstart your training session. And all of those levels also count towards your weekly goal. So it's great to train with it.
And it
Now,
moves through the material faster than the regular trainer. So you'll get a memory exercise or even a navigation exercise long before the trainer would schedule them for you. And the requirement to get 10 stars is reduced to just 5 stars for the trainer. So I would say it's mainly for someone who's interested in adding a little more variety to their schedule.
yeah, absolutely. After the standard focuses, we have specialized focuses. So these are groupings of exercises that our team of scientists have put together to help train specific skills. So say, for example, we wanted to work on our auditory processing. We can go ahead and click on this and we get a little bit of information about what the focus is targeting, and we get a preview of what exercises are included in it, and we get information about the scientists that help work on these exercises and put research towards it. If this sounds like a focus that we want to go ahead and use, then we go ahead and click the big button at the top of the screen. And we'll see here that the personal trainer has changed our schedule. So now we are getting all of the auditory processing exercises instead. Now, the last focus that I wanted to show is the custom focus. So I'm going to go ahead and click on focus up here in this top left corner and come down to a custom focus. So you can actually build your own training program from scratch by adjusting the active set of exercises. So as Jeff and I have sort of said, the personal trainer is going to pull from 6 exercises out of the 29 by default for you to be sort of training with. So what you can do is say, hey, I don't want to train with any of these exercises. There are, 5 or 6 specific exercises that I want to train with. You can go ahead and come to this list and select them. Let's not do freeze frame actually, because freeze frame takes a while. But let's say I wanted to train with memory grid and scene crasher. So I've now picked exercises that I want the personal trainer to go ahead and queue up for me. I'm going to go ahead and rename my focus and say this is my focus with Jeff. And then when I am okay with those settings, I'll go ahead and click the big button up at the top. And the personal trainer is going to go ahead and load up a schedule of these exercises for me with those exercises that I had picked out. So it's a really great feature if you have a pretty clear idea of what sort of things you want to be working on. In the cases of some people who use BrainHQ with like practitioners may have like a specific set of exercises they want you to work on or may prescribe to you. So this is one way to go ahead and arrange for that in the personal trainer. All right, for the time being, I'm going to go ahead and set it back to the regular focus with the Daily Spark. But I think that is going to be it for the presentation portion. I want to make sure that we start moving on to questions here. All right. So Jeff, if there's a question in here that speaks to you and you want to answer, go for it. I'm going to take a second here to sort of scan through myself.
Right.
Bobby had asked how many levels are there for each exercise. It varies depending on the exercise. We have over 900 levels, individual, like unique levels of training within BrainHQ. But some exercises, have 6 or 8, and other exercises have upwards of 50. So it depends on the exercise.
And then there's a question, when does the personal trainer bring back a retired exercise into rotation? So it basically, once an exercise has been retired, it stays retired until you've gone through the whole 29 exercises. And then it brings it back once that's been done.
Yep. Right, let's see. Ellen had asked about how to get back to the trainer settings from the profile page. So this is going to be for web, but again, you would click on the little arrow up by your name, and then click on goals, and then that would take you down to the goals and trainer settings on your profile page.
Let's see, Sharon asked, I've gotten the max stars on many of the exercises. How do I access more in that category? There's a couple answers to that. One is you can always, if you want to do a category that's not scheduled in your trainer, feel free to jump into the a la carte training, which you can access, at the bottom of the screen that we're looking at right now, the list of exercises there, or at the beginning if you choose the button below the personal trainer, that'll take you to the list of exercises. And when you do an exercise in a la carte, the personal trainer is aware of that, and it will use that as as data for what it schedules for you. And I would say, I think CD probably the most common, well, I shouldn't say the most common, but a category of questions Customer Delight gets about the personal trainer is some of the funky behavior that the trainer can get into if you have some corner case of, hey, I've gotten 5 stars in everything except this one exercise. So now my little list here just shows that one exercise. And how do you break out of that? There usually are fixes for that, but you should always feel free if the personal trainer, especially once you've used it for a long time, or you have a focus that doesn't have very many exercises in it, it may stop providing a schedule that you're interested in. Feel free to make your own schedule at that point. By then, you know enough about BrainHQ. You should just click on the on a la carte or make a different custom focus, whatever. I think the personal trainer really has the most value for new users and people in the middle of their training. Once you've become an experienced trainer, you could probably guide yourself or go to the, we're not going to talk about this today probably, but that progress tab at the top can show you which levels of which exercises you've performed the best in and which you've performed the worst in. That often for an experienced user is the best way to train, because you could find where you need the most help, or you could go back and master something you've mastered before.
Yeah. And one thing that I wanted to show, as Jeff had mentioned, is how to access the a la carte menu. So we do have this menu at the bottom of the BrainHQ website. But when you first log into BrainHQ, you also have this option that says Explore All Exercises. So if we click on that, we can see all of our exercises are broken down into each of these categories, and we can see how many of those stages within each of these exercises we have completed. So it looks like I've completed 1 stage of target tracker. So let's say I wanted to continue working on target tracker. I would click on that. I can see these are all levels that I've completed because I have scores in them. I would probably come down to level 2 and then pick one of these levels to train with. So again, as Jeff said, the personal trainer is really good for new and sort of continuing users who are in the middle of their training, because sometimes it can be kind of confusing to look at this, array of boxes and go, hey, which one should I be working on next? The personal trainer is really great at just going ahead and picking those levels out specifically for you. All right, let's see.
Yeah, and then I see a question from Donna about, is there a benefit in choosing a custom focus with more than one over one focus? And in her case, she had chosen intelligence. Maybe certain combinations have value. And this reminds me of another question, which was, oh, actually, I'm forgetting what that is now. But anyway, so I mentioned BrainHQ has, or the exercises in BrainHQ have been in many studies showing the efficacy of doing the exercises. Each study has different requirements, and they're targeting to different groups, and they're using different exercises. Oh, I think the other question had to do with dosage, like, what is the optimum amount of training that you should do? And I would say for both of these questions, we do not have super specific examples or answers to those based on our studies. Certain exercises do tend to, work together. Asking about the intelligence one, I think it is useful to train in a given suite with all the exercises together. They tend to reinforce each other. But again, it's not and as we've talked about, that's kind of how the personal trainer works. It sort of brings you through the suites in a particular order. But again, you can break that if you need to. And then in terms of the dosage, we have that default dosage, which is 24 levels a week, about an hour training. That seems to be an effective route to training. But I will say the studies have taken many paths to successful results. One of the most common patterns we see in the studies, and again, this has to do with more how a university might schedule a study or how they might have access to the participants' time. It's less a guideline for how an end user should train, but typically the studies do kind of a focused, intensive 10 hours of training. And that's very valuable. Once people reach that milestone, the results seem to be pretty good. But also very powerful is they tend to do the studies that do booster training, which means people come back, on a quarterly basis and do more training, also seem to benefit. So I don't think you have to train every day for the rest of your life, 3 days a week, an hour a week.
Unless you want to.
Unless you want to, it's got to be good for you. But if you make a good effort at first, get through quite a bit of the training, and then I know life gets busy and you might have to not do it for a few weeks, but if you make sure you come back on a semi-regular basis, that also is very powerful.
Yeah, wonderful answer to that. Right. Leslie is asking, what is the significance of the different colors of the circles? How should I use that as a guide to regarding which exercise to select? Yeah, so I briefly touched on this, but didn't go super in depth on that, so I can talk about that a little bit more. All of the exercise icons within BrainHQ are going to be color coded. So if you see a green icon, that is going to be an attention exercise. Blue is brain speed. Pink is memory. Orange is people skills. Purple is intelligence. And yellow is navigation. So if you are looking at sort of this tape feed of exercises, and you say, I don't really want to start with an attention exercise. I maybe want to go ahead and do a brain speed exercise first instead. You can go ahead and click on whichever exercise the trainer has queued up, and then go ahead and load that and start your training from there. So as Jeff was saying, it's also pretty flexible. But the colors are kind of a cool way to really quickly identify what kind of an exercise to expect.
Yeah, and there's another question about the degree to which percentile and other measures influence the personal trainer. And, we also have on the progress page, we show your percentiles by exercise and also by level. We also have a feature called BrainHQ that kind of generally gives you feedback on your performance over time. And those things are not, the personal trainer and those other measures are not directly tied together, but they are associated with one another. And again, they both are meant to encourage the kind of training behavior we think is most productive. So with BrainHQ, for instance, if you train, it tends to go up. If you stop training, it goes down. So it's trying to tell you you should train again. If you train in something new, it goes up. If you improve in something old, it goes up. And so the personal trainer kind of uses some of those same ideas, right? The personal trainer, wants you to train in new things, because you can improve your overall brain health by seeing something new. It wants you to improve in old things, which is why sometimes it's rescheduling repeated things. So a lot of these principles are shared across those things, but they're not directly tied together.
Yeah. And just as a heads up, I'll quickly sort of tab through the progress page just so you guys can sort of get an idea of what Jeff is talking about. But we do have a progress webinar where we're going to do a deep dive into all the sections on progress. Not next month, but the following month. So in May, we're going to do a whole office hours webinar dedicated to progress. Again, this is a newish account, so there's not really a lot of progress on it. So there's not going to be a lot of great information here that we can pull from as examples. But if you wanted to see how many days you've trained, what your AQ score is, how many stars you've earned, how many levels you've completed, and your percentile ranking based on the training that you've done so far, that is all going to be here within the progress page. And again, don't want to get into it so much today. Do want to save that for the webinar in 2 months.
And I guess I'll tackle one from Carl. When will the trainer consider you to be done with a particular repeated exercise? Suppose the best you can do is getting 3 stars, but still getting 10 stars in total. Yes, this brings up an issue I mentioned before, where we have done something to kind of confuse all of our participants in terms of stars. So, one thing that the personal trainer does is when, if Stephanie were to click start on divided attention, she would need then to get a total of 10 stars, 10 cumulative stars before she would move on to the next exercise in the schedule, double decision. So she could get that 10 stars in a bunch of ways. She could do it 5 times with 2 stars each, or she could do it 2 times with 5 stars each. So that is one way in which the trainer, at least on your daily schedule, operates. In terms of when it's trying to decide what your schedule should be for tomorrow, it's going to say, okay, I know Stephanie did this exercise today. She did it 5 times at 2 stars. So I'm actually going to schedule that again tomorrow, because my requirement for not scheduling it is she had to have achieved 3 stars in it. So had she done the other example where she did it 5 stars 2 times, it would not come back in the next day's schedule because she'd hit 5 stars. So I know that we're kind of using the same measure for 2 different things at 2 different time scales, but that's sort of how that works.
Yeah. I'm seeing quite a few questions about, I use the app and I don't have, it doesn't look like this for me. The BrainHQ app does have a couple, all the well, let me back up. The personal trainer feature in the iOS app and the Android app are going through some updates right now. So iOS is going to look different from Android. Android is going to look different from the web version. But the way that the personal trainer functions is still going to be functionally the same. It's mostly it is mostly a visual update with some different tweaks to make sort of your training sessions easier to set each time. If you are interested in seeing your progress page or seeing the web as it is like this, you would have to use the website version of BrainHQ. So if you're on an iPad, we don't typically recommend it. It's better just to use the BrainHQ app on iPad, or if you're on a mobile device. If you are on a computer, then the web version of BrainHQ is going to be the one that you see here and that you would have to end up using. So sorry for the confusion on that. If you want, there's not really a good way for me to show off the iPad or the phone apps during the webinar, unfortunately. But if you have questions about how to navigate through the personal trainer in any of those apps, feel free to send our support team a message and they'd be happy to walk you through it. That email address is going to be support@brainhq.com.
And I saw there was two different questions related to changing the focus. One was how do I find the daily spark? The other was I chose the memory focus. How do I change it back? Stephanie, can you show that again really
Yeah,
quickly?
absolutely. So there are two ways to get to the focus screen. The quick and easy one that I like is if I'm on the personal trainer page like I am now, up in the top left, I'll just click where it says focus, and then it'll take me to the focus selection screen. If you have a specialized focus or a custom focus loaded up and you want to go back to the regular focus or the focus with the daily spark, you would click on whichever one of these you would prefer, and that will automatically go ahead and load that up for you. If you wanted to change your optimized schedule or your standard focus into a specialized focus, you would do the same sort of actions here. You would pick the focus that you wanted. Let's say focus on auditory processing. And again, click the big button at the top to load that into your trainer. And we can see that the levels have now adjusted, or the exercises have now adjusted to be all of the auditory processing exercises. All right, let's see. Oh, here's a fun one. And Jeff, you actually may be able to speak to this from personal experience, but John is saying, I play ping pong. Which BrainHQ exercises would help me be a better player?
Hmm. Well, I guess I would say definitely the attention and the brain speed exercises. Those tend to a lot of those have to do with speed of processing. So I'd focus on that area as a starting point.
Yeah. We used to have a ping pong or a table tennis league here in the office, and I remember Jeff and a lot of the product development team were very avid users of that. The other thing that I will say is that if you want a quick and easy way to get those exercises, we also have a specialized focus for sports and games that are going to be all of the brain speed and attention exercises like Jeff had mentioned, that you can automatically load into the trainer. So these are going to be exercises that really help with your peripheral vision and your sort of timing of motion and movement.
And there's a question from Pat about removing an exercise from the personal trainer. And I guess you really have two options there. One is, let's say double decision, which is scheduled here for Stephanie, is the one you want to remove. Anytime it gets scheduled, you can just click on one of the next ones and it'll skip that. But that might be annoying to do that over time. So the other option is to create a custom focus like Stephanie showed you. And you can include every exercise in BrainHQ except for the one you really don't like, or the ones, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And it'll take you
Yeah.
through the same kind of algorithm, but with a reduced set of exercises.
Yeah. So actually here, let me show how to do that just as an example again. So clicking on focus, going down to create a new focus. So let's say I like most of the exercises in BrainHQ, but I don't like mixed signals. So I'm going to go ahead and click the X next to that. I don't like recognition, and I don't like, let's say, card shark. So if we scroll to the bottom, we can see that these are the three exercises that have been removed from the personal trainer, but the remaining 26 exercises are listed here. So when we click this button at the top to save our focus and load it into the trainer, it's going to function sort of the same way as we had said, where the trainer is going to serve up 6 exercises for you at a time. And you'll continue to work through all of those exercises, except for the ones that you had specifically told the trainer not to use.
Stephanie did a nice little trick there. If you want, when you do the custom focus, the starting point depends on the last focus you had assigned. So she wanted the starting point to have all the exercises in it. So she switched to the main focus. Let's say you're working on your ping pong and you want to use the sports and games focus, but you think that I don't know, freeze frame might be helpful in that endeavor too. You could start with the sports and games focus, then go to the custom. It will inherit those 6 exercises, and then you could add the 7th.
Yeah. Just to sort of show what Jeff was talking about there, it was a sneaky little thing that I did. So let's say we go back to the sports and game focus. Let's say that that was the focus that I had loaded into the personal trainer. And I was like, this is great, but maybe I wanted to take away eye for detail and add in a different exercise. I could click on focus, go down to create a new focus, and all of the exercises from the current schedule, the current focus are already automatically selected for me. So if you come to a custom focus when you have your default focus or the optimized schedule or daily spark focus, all of the exercises are going to be highlighted. So, if you want a focus with a lot of variation, then that might be a good way to sort of quickly get everything highlighted. But if you want sort of a more contained focus, that is a quick little way to sort of do that. So let's say I didn't want eye for detail, but I instead wanted freeze frame. And then those 5 are selected, and then I can load that into the trainer.
There's another question about permanently turning off freeze frame. And actually, freeze frame is permanently turned off if you're in the standard focuses. And the reason for that is that as the user who asked the question points out, that exercise is much longer per level than the rest of them. And the reason for that is that's what it's sort of measuring, your ability to maintain your attention over a long period of time, but it kind of breaks the rule of BrainHQ, which is that mostly it should take about 2.5 minutes to complete a level. So it's not uncommon that doesn't fit well in people's schedules. So we do have that one by default turned off in the default schedule. But if it's in one of the custom focuses that you like to use and you want to take it out, you could do it just the way Stephanie showed us.
Yeah. All right, let's see. All right, we talked about removing exercises. Donna had asked a question, is there a place where I can see what levels have been retired or what exercises have been retired? I don't think there is. Is there, Jeff?
No, there's not.
Okay.
Yeah.
So good question, though. Thank you, Donna.
There is the support team has a tool they can use to sort of dig into your personal trainer if some sort of strange behavior is coming out, and they can see in that tool it does explain, hey, how come these exercises are scheduled and these aren't? But that's not something that's accessible directly. But if you
Yeah.
have a specific question, they could help you with it.
Yeah, we can go digging around through your old progress information to try and figure out why the personal trainer would be doing what it's doing. All right, let's see. Oh, Catherine has an interesting question. Has anyone ever trained out of BrainHQ? Is it possible that a person can no longer have any new paths of training or maxes the program out? Yeah, so there have been a couple of cases, actually the number of cases that I've personally encountered, I can count on one hand, of people who have trained with every single level in BrainHQ and gotten 5 stars on every level. For those people, BrainHQ has really sort of become a routine for them. And for, I think, every single one of them, it's not, hey, am I good? Do I need to stop training? Their sort of question was, how can I keep training to sort of maintain my gains here? And so there isn't really anything specific that happens when you max out the program, when you get 5 stars on, all 900 and something levels. You'll get a big thumbs up and a congratulations from us for sure. But in most of those cases, people wanted to actually have their progress wiped, and so that way they could start over like a fresh new user, so they could go through the whole program again. Again, that has happened very, very few times, like less than 5 times that I have personally encountered in my 10 years working customer service here. And if you get to if you get to maxing out the program, your feelings for the program may be different. That's totally okay. But there's not really an upper end to the training or the amount of training that you can do with BrainHQ or for how long.
And actually that case used to be a bigger problem for the personal trainer. We actually made an improvement, I think well over a year ago now, maybe 2 years ago,
Yeah.
that addressed that issue, but actually more directly addressed an issue that would happen for anybody who had already trained in all 900 unique levels. The BrainHQ graph, as you guys have probably experienced, tends to go up because you're constantly encountering new exercises and beating old scores. But once you've done every level, there's less room for it to improve. So your BrainHQ would sort of level off. And we discovered that the way since I mentioned earlier that the BrainHQ and the personal trainer are not directly aligned. They kind of measure similar, training styles, but they're not totally aligned. But actually, we were discovering that the way the way the personal trainer was scheduling levels once you had hit that point of completing every level was not optimizing BrainHQ. So we made a change to actually tie them directly together. So once you've done every level in BrainHQ, the personal trainer and BrainHQ are tied directly together, and it starts scheduling levels to make you improve your BrainHQ the most. And so it also fixes the problem where it didn't know what to do once you had 5-starred every exercise. Now it basically finds the exercise that you did the longest ago and schedules that one because there's a little decay in BrainHQ. So by doing an exercise you haven't been to or a level you haven't been to for a long time, it helps you improve your BrainHQ. So that issue used to be a much bigger problem in the trainer, but now it sort of manages it better than it did before.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Big quality of life improvement we have heard from people. All right. Dana had a question. When you start training and you realize that you're doing something wrong, can you go back to restart the exercise? Yes. We also have a couple of questions where people are like, hey, if I have questions about how do I find the exercise tutorials or how can I get more information about those exercises? A couple of quick ways that we can do that. So here, let me go to Target Tracker for example here. So if I have loaded up Target Tracker and I have, it's been a while since I've trained with that level, what I can do is I can click this little eye icon down in the bottom right to turn the instructions back on. So it gives me sort of a brief summary of like what the current stimuli are. But if I want to repeat the instructions, like go through the interactive tutorial, that option is here. We also have video tutorials for all of our exercises. Additionally, on the BrainHQ site or on our help site, we have a whole section dedicated to explaining in depth what to expect from all of our exercises, how they change over time, what the various stimuli are. So I would also encourage you all to check those out. And when in doubt, always reach out to us. You can either click the help button to send us an email, or you can email us directly, support@brainhq.com. All right. So we are, oh gosh, I didn't keep very good track of the time here. We are actually just about at the top of the hour. So let's go ahead and start wrapping up. So once again, I wanted to thank everybody here for tuning in and asking all those wonderful questions that you have throughout the entire presentation today. If we didn't get an opportunity to answer your question, please send your question to support@brainhq.com, or you can use the help button on the website in order to send us a message. Our support team is more than happy to answer your questions. That's what they're there for. And I also wanted to especially thank Jeff for joining me today on the webinar. Jeff, my guy, you did a fantastic job. I'm really, really glad that you were able to be here, and I hope that you had a good time too.
I did. Thanks. It was fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and happy brain training.